At 11:30 p.m., Tianjin city was immersed in silence when suddenly a terrifying explosion tore through the night. The Binhai area shook violently, with no one understanding what was happening. Residents rushed out to the streets to investigate, but before things became clear, a second explosion, 7 times stronger, erupted. This time, it seemed as if it wanted to blow away the entire city of Tianjin. Houses collapsed, many structures were burned to ashes, vehicles turned into piles of scrap metal on the road, and the number of casualties was countless. In just a few minutes, China's top modern industrial city seemed to have experienced doomsday, dragged back to the Stone Age. It is estimated that the disaster's power was equivalent to detonating 3 tons of TNT simultaneously. But in the midst of peace, why did this terrible tragedy occur? Was it a natural disaster or a man-made one? Today, let's join Conha TV to explore this horrifying disaster. About the unfortunate firefighters and the bloody lesson for the global chemical industry in the video. The explosion at the Ruihai chemical warehouse in China, 3 minutes, 1,000 victims, and 123 euros. And as usual, before getting into the main content, don't forget to like and subscribe to the Realm of the Unseen channel to support our. Thank you for everyone's support. Tianjin is one of China's largest cities with over 13 million residents. It is not only the gateway for goods entering and leaving the capital Beijing, but also a bustling global seaport. As the 10th largest port in the world by container volume, Tianjin is a crucial transit hub for goods from all over the world. Not only that, Tianjin is also one of China's largest automobile shipping ports, handling up to 40% of the country's imported cars. It is also a major commercial center, with many chemical production plants and other industrial materials. The story begins in 2010 when a plot of land in Tianjin was sold with the intention of building a regular warehouse. Just 1 year later, Ruihai International Logistics Company Limited was established, and that land quickly transformed into a large-scale transit center and distribution point for dangerous materials via Tianjin port, meaning a ticking time bomb was forming. With an area of 46,226.8 square meters, the site included an office building, 2 hazardous goods warehouses, a transit warehouse, an open yard, and a wastewater collection tank. According to an environmental impact assessment in 2013, the accident risks in most of the warehouse's hazardous, flammable products were within permissible limits. Therefore, Ruihai Company was officially licensed to handle dangerous chemicals from April 2014 to October. And in that year, the volume of hazardous goods they handled accounted for up to 70% of the total hazardous goods transported at Tianjin. However, a surprising fact is that after October, Ruihai Company continued to operate, even though their license had expired. They operated covertly until June, before obtaining a new license. On August 12, 2015, when the disaster occurred, Ruihai Company had 70 employees, with an annual goods output of up to 1 billion tons, and an annual revenue equivalent to $4.7 million. Clearly, this was a profitable company with huge earnings. T always mean it. At around 10:50 p.m. on August 12th, over 1,020 Tianjin firefighters, along with 140 fire trucks and other rescue teams, transferred to one of the warehouses of Ruihai Company after receiving a report about a fire. Among the first people present at the scene, many were contract firefighters, meaning young, inexperienced workers, hired by the port management rather than the regular team of the local government. Immediately, the first firefighting team proceeded to identify the items inside the warehouse, while spraying water on some burning containers. However, they had no idea that they were about to become victims of the disaster they were trying to extinguish. At 11:30 p.m., a horrific explosion suddenly erupted from the warehouse of Ruihai Company, shaking the entire surrounding residential area. Residents living in nearby areas in panic hurriedly ran out of their homes to find out what was happening, but the nightmare had not yet ended. Just 30 seconds later, a second explosion, 7 times stronger than the first, tore through the entire city of Tianjin. The second explosion created a terrifying shockwave, spreading and burning down the entire logistics area with thousands of vehicles before engulfing residential areas. Immediately, windows of houses shattered, doors were torn off. Numerous shipping containers were deformed, hurled into nearby areas with devastating force. Over 700 people were injured. The destructive power of the explosion was so great that earthquake monitoring devices were triggered. The first explosion had an intensity of 2.3 on the Richter scale, and the second was 2.9, equivalent to the power of 3 tons of TNT. Simultaneously, a massive fireball rose up to 100 meters high, so bright that satellites could observe it from orbit. A large area of Tianjin port was devastated. Containers crumpled, buildings burned to ashes, brand new cars turned into piles of black scrap metal. The pungent smell of burning permeated the air. Amidst this hell on earth, panicked victims fled for their lives on the streets, trying to escape the fire. Many truly believed they were experiencing a terrible earthquake or even a nuclear bomb explosion. Hundreds rushed to hospitals with injuries from broken glass, internal trauma, or fractures. Tianjin, from a bustling city, turned into a battlefield in just a few minutes. While rescue forces struggled amidst a sea of fire, thousands of innocent residents were forced to evacuate their homes, seeking refuge in emergency shelters. With each passing hour, the casualty count increased. Finally, the tragic statistics stopped at 165 deaths, including 44 firefighters from the Ministry of Public Security, 75 firefighters from Tianjin, 11 police officers, 55 employees of Ruihai Company, along with many residents and employees from neighboring companies. 8 others remained missing and 798 were injured. However, amidst the destruction and tragedy, there were still miracles. 30 hours after the explosion, amidst the rubble, rescue teams suddenly discovered a 19-year-old firefighter, Zhao Tian luckily survived the explosion, but with multiple severe injuries. A day later, another miracle occurred with a 56-year-old man. He was found alive just 50 meters from the epicenter of the explosion. He had survived inside a shipping container for 3 days. Both lucky individuals were taken to the hospital and were in stable condition. On the morning of August 13, Chinese President Xi Jinping demanded that the authorities do their utmost to rescue and treat the injured, while declaring that those responsible must be dealt with strictly. Chinese Premier Li Keqiang also personally visited the scene, committing to publicly and transparently disclose information about the incident. About 36 hours after the explosion, over 200 Chinese military experts in nuclear materials and biochemistry were deployed to Tianjin. Although the government initially did not know what was stored in the warehouse, but inspection results showed there were up to 700 tons of sodium cyanide. An extremely toxic chemical is being stored here. This number is 70 times lower than the permitted level. Nutrition ore is a white crystalline powder compound, commonly used in chemical production, fumigation, and precious metal extraction. Just 1 teaspoon of this chemical is enough to kill an adult, because it prevents the body from using oxygen. According to a report, the initial fire was believed to have started from a container in the warehouse's receiving area, due to the spontaneous combustion of nitrocellulose, a flammable dry substance stored inside. Nitrocellulose, a flammable compound, overheated due to the evaporation of moisture in the hot, humid summer weather. The fire quickly spread, igniting other chemicals stored nearby, including ammonium nitrate fertilizer. Firefighters, in an effort to extinguish the fire, sprayed water into the burning area, but they were unaware that this action inadvertently worsened the situation. Some water sprayed into the calcium carbide storage, a chemical that reacts strongly with water, releasing explosive acetylene gas. The acetylene gas then combined with ammonium nitrate, triggering a horrific explosion. This acetylene explosion ignited other chemicals stored in nearby containers, such as nutrition ore, a chemical that, when in contact with water, releases highly toxic and flammable hydrogen cyanide gas. And as a result, a second, much more devastating explosion occurred just 30 seconds later. Although the management of Ruihai Company tried to conceal it, it was discovered that at the time of the explosion, their warehouse was storing about 3,000 tons of hazardous chemicals, including 700 tons of nutrition ore, 500 tons of nitrate, and 800 tons of ammonium nitrate. The explosion created a crater over 6 meters deep that filled with water after 2 days. Nutrition ore, an extremely toxic chemical, then leaked into the sewer system to prevent pollution. Authorities blocked all waterways leading out of the explosion and fire area. Simultaneously, they dispatched emergency response teams and protectors to clear hazardous debris before it rained. Because rain could spread toxic substances, even causing other dangerous chemical reactions. Initially, it was believed that air quality remained normal. But by 4 p.m. the next day, police detected high concentrations of toxic gas within 500 meters of the scene. Technicians even found concentrations 356 times the safe level within a 3 kilometers radius, equivalent to 1.9 miles. Fortunately, southwest winds pushed the pollution out to the Ruihai Sea, but concerns about an environmental disaster remain, as wind direction could change at any time. On August 15, over 6,300 people living in temporary housing were ordered to evacuate urgently when the wind direction changed. Authorities immediately established a 3 kilometers exclusion zone around the explosion. On August 18, a heavy rain unexpectedly hit Tianjin. Notably, the rain left a strange white foam on the roads. Those who came into contact with the rain, there are also strange symptoms like a burning sensation on the tingling sensation on the arms and itchy rashes. Not stopping there, thousands of dead fish suddenly surfaced on the Ruihai River, about 6 kilometers from the explosion site. Residents are worried, half believing and half doubting the connection between the abnormal phenomena and the chemical explosion. However, the Chinese government denies this, affirming that the chemical concentration in the river water remains within safe. Notably, the developers of the Vancoa urban area, the residential area closest to the explosion site and also the most severely affected, stated that they were informed that the warehouses here only handled ordinary goods, with no information whatsoever about dangerous chemicals. To ensure safety, according to regulations of China's General Administration, facilities handling dangerous chemicals with an area over 550 square meters must be at least 1 kilometer away from public structures. But Ruihai disregarded this regulation. Vancoa, the residential area nearest the warehouse, is only a mere 600 meters away, and this is also one of the 3 large residential areas directly affected by the explosion. The first press conference aimed at informing the public about the disaster was chaired by low-level officials, lacking the authority to provide satisfactory answers. The government's silence on questions such as what substances were stored in the warehouse, who is responsible, has left the people extremely outraged. On August 16, hundreds of residents organized a protest outside the press conference. They demanded the government repurchase the damaged apartments, and also spoke up for the missing reserve firefighters, those not counted in the official casualty list, because they are not regular firefighters. Their families are left abandoned in despair, not knowing the whereabouts of their loved ones. The questionnaire for 130 people living in a warehouse, aimed at confirming Ruihai Company's hazardous chemical handling plan, is also questioned for its transparency. The results of this questionnaire show that the majority of residents supported the project, but many affirm they had never seen any questionnaire or knew about Ruihai's plan. They declared they would never agree that they had known about such potential dangers beforehand. Over 9,000 households, out of approximately 17,000 households affected by this, later signed compensation agreements with the local government. The government promised to compensate 1.3 times the average house price for destroyed homes. However, many residents reported they were threatened with job termination by state enterprise managers if they did not sign the agreement. Moreover, the compensation amount is insufficient for them to buy an equivalent apartment in more than 3 weeks after the explosion. Many Tianjin residents still have not received compensation. Even some people stated they were forced to abandon their compensation claim. On August 18, a special investigation team was established under the directive of the State Council, with the participation of 600 officials from various governments. After reviewing thousands of documents and 100,000 hours of surveillance footage, they reached a conclusion, assigning responsibility to multiple parties, and among them, 123 people were charged with negligence or corruption. 49 of them were arrested. Among those charged in the Tianjin explosion case were Ruihai Company Chairman Wu Shuiwei and Vice President Dong Sheshuan, both admitted to exploiting personal relationships with government officials to obtain permits for the facility. Many government officials responsible for ensuring industrial safety were also held accountable in this incident, including Dong Dongliang, director of the State Administration of Work, who had established a 1 kilometer regulation. Dong Dongliang had previously served as vice mayor of Tianjin in 2012. Wu Shuiwei took advantage of a decree regarding the handling of hazardous chemicals, paving the way for companies like Ruihai to operate illegally. 25 government officials and 24 employees of related companies were also sentenced. Wu Shuiwei, head of Ruihai Company, received the most severe sentence, death penalty, with a 2-year reprieve. The court concluded that Wu Shuiwei had bribed port management to obtain permits for handling hazardous chemicals. Death sentences are often commuted to life imprisonment after but Wu Shuiwei stated in court that he regretted his actions and would not appeal. On September 12, exactly 1 month after the explosion, the Chinese authorities suspended the search for 8 missing persons, including 5 firefighters. The final death toll was confirmed to be 173 people, including 104 firefighters. The Tianjin explosion became China's worst industrial disaster and the deadliest accident for the country's emergency response forces since 1949. The explosion also caused severe economic damage, with approximately 4,000 Hyundai and Kia vehicles completely destroyed, along with 2,750 Volkswagen vehicles, 1,500 Renault vehicles, and thousands of others. As of December 10, 2015, direct economic losses were estimated at $1 billion, including 304 buildings, 12,428 commercial vehicles, and 7,533 detained. After completing the site cleanup on September 13, authorities removed 1,176 tons of hazardous and 14,000 tons of goods from Tianjin port. In addition to the recovery efforts, the Chinese government also implemented control over information related to the explosion. Over 50 websites, hundreds of pages and social media accounts were shut down for spreading false rumors about the Tianjin explosion. Many users reported that their posts about the explosion had been removed. Even on television stations in Tianjin, Korean dramas were still being broadcast hours after the incident. Many reporters had to wait for permission from the authorities to report on the tragedy. They were even threatened and prevented from filming and taking photos. After the explosion, the State Council launched a nationwide inspection, targeting all businesses using dangerous chemicals and explosives, realizing that management loopholes could exist in any city. To prevent the tragedy from occurring, investigators recommended building a national system to monitor the storage and use of dangerous chemicals. The Tianjin government also announced plans to build a 24-hectare park at the site of the explosion, as a memorial to the firefighters who sacrificed their lives. However, this plan faced opposition from the online community. They argued that the site was so contaminated, and the government was wasting taxpayers' money. The 2015 Tianjin explosion was an extensive lesson in occupational safety and environmental protection. Hopefully, this tragedy will help raise awareness of responsibility and promote the management of the chemical industry in a stricter and more transparent way for a safer world for all of us. As for you, what thoughts does this disaster evoke? Please share in the comments section. Thank you for accompanying me until this moment. Kanhua. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Realm of the Unseen channel, and look forward to other fascinating stories. Goodbye and see you again.
If the veil stirred, subscribe and meet the next encounter.